All right. So, area study and threat analysis. Basically, what this is about is understanding the area that you're going to be in. It's known as your operational environment. Your operational environment, it sounds like this crazy tactical term, but it's really not. It's just wherever the area is that you're working is your operational environment. Hey, unspecified podcast. Good to see you. Glad you can make it. So, with this, and this is something that Mike Shelby from Forward Observer had put out. This is talking about the area that you're in, your community, your city, your town, your suburb even. And he's talking about learning the area. What can you use to your advantage? What can you use to help the community? What could be a potential disadvantage? And there's a couple different points to it. One of those is going to be the physical terrain. That's going to be stuff like roads, bridges, where your electrical substations are, where your water treatment plants are, hospitals, fire stations, because in the event of any sort of an emergency situation, knowing where those are can be critical for being able to address any issues that come up, especially within a timely manner. Knowing the topography of the area, know where there's lakes, where there's rivers, where there's hillsides. Maybe there's a hillside that you can go up on top of and be able to look from that and see out some distance and be able to have advanced warning of, oh, hey, there's a tornado coming our way, we should probably move. Or, hey, there's this group of people that are coming this way that are causing problems. Heaven forbid the instance of an actual invasion from another country. Having high ground to be able to see from and knowing where it is could be important. Knowing local flora and fauna, knowing what kind of plants that grow there are edible, what kinds of them are poisonous, what should you eat, what should you avoid, what kind of animals are there that you can rely on, or that you could for sustenance, or that you could use for other agricultural work, whether it was something that you were going to hook up for plowing or whatever. Even things like chickens that you could use for insect and pest control. Learn what kinds of things in those categories are in your area, what's around. And you get into also the possible traffic problems. Example, I'm in Southern California. If you look at Southern California in the LA basin, you've got all of approximately 4 routes out of the greater Los Angeles area. There's the Interstate 5 freeway that goes north and south. You've got the Interstate 10, the Interstate 60, and you've got the 15. Outside of that, it's all going through mountains or there's a coast. So knowing, in your area, if there's an emergency, how can you get out? What are you looking at as far as where there would be potential traffic jams and snarls? Speaking from Los Angeles, I used to have to drive from one side of Los Angeles County to outside of Los Angeles County on the other side, and sometimes it would take 2 hours, sometimes it would take 6+. So understanding where those traffic snarls that could cause the really bad delays are going to be at is helpful and could be really important. Especially if you're looking at something where you're worried about supplies being able to come in, because those same choke points for traffic are choke points for supplies. Hey, Ashley B, glad you can make it. Mike talks about the human terrain. What are the recent voting patterns of the area that you're in? Because let's face it, your voting patterns and the politics are going to dictate what happens in your area. Now, I'm not talking just like, oh, who did they vote for president, but, what are the local elections like? What kind of people are being voted in for sheriff? What kind of people are being voted in for the local office? Your city council, your mayor, what kind of policies do they support? And you're also going to want to look at the socioeconomic status of the community. Are you looking at an area that is very affluent and people aren't going to be self-sufficient? Because that could be a potential problem if you've got stuff and they want it and they're not self-sufficient. Desperation causes all kinds of stuff to happen that wouldn't normally. If you've got an area that's severely impoverished, there could be higher crime, or you could be in an area where it's more rural and there's more self-sufficiency, and that's also going to play into it. Things that you can do with the human terrain: look at your local neighborhood watches. Find out what's going on. Find out if there's trends of problems that are happening or anything that stands out that more people might need to be aware of. Or it could be a forecast of something that's coming, because history predicts the future. Something else you can do is informally canvass people. Now, when you're informally canvassing, don't just walk up and be like, oh, what do you think of this? And be hostile about it. Just have a conversation. And somewhere through the conversation, maybe discuss preparedness. Like, hey, are you guys worried at all about the current socioeconomic situation? Are you guys worried about the supply chain shortages? Do you guys do anything regarding that? And don't just start into 21 questions, but you can throw it into conversations at random. You might seem scatterbrained to the person, but you can still ask them, and you can kind of get an idea of how people view it. Do they think it's a waste of time? Do they think it's important? And if they think it's a waste of time, maybe spend a few minutes in conversation with them, see if you can explain why it's actually a really important thing. You can also analyze the crime statistics of the area. Look at, are there a bunch of break-ins? Are there a lot of assaults? Is there a lot of battery? Is there a lot of arson or gang violence or whatever? Look for patterns in it, because again, history predicts the future. So you can look at this stuff and have it as an example of what you can expect and prepare, plan for that potential. One of the other things he said on the human terrain was to co-opt social groups into your preparedness network. So if you find a group of people that is a bunch of mechanics or people who go off-roading or camping or whatever, and they're going to be out doing stuff, talk to them, get some information from them, find out if they'd be willing to keep an eye out for anything weird going on or anything random to get some information on. They could also let you know of anything that's going wrong in the area or suspicious. Next point he talks about is politics and governance. And yes, it absolutely takes a village. And that's the thing. there's so many different aspects to that as to why you need more than one person. I mean, you can use your household for an example. Look at the difference in a single parent raising a kid versus two parents raising a kid. And especially if one of those parents is a homemaker, you split the tasks that are needing to be done. You don't overburden one particular person that way, and you can make better use of your resources. And that's nothing against single parents. The reality is that is not the easiest route to go. Unspecified Podcast says, I would rather trade eggs and PB&Js than bullets. Absolutely. There's a reason why the people who are skilled at fighting want to avoid it. And Ashley B says, needing a wide range of skills and personalities to survive. Can't rely on just one person for survival. Exactly. I mean, even if you have one person who's a, do-all person, they can organize everything, they can build everything, they can maintain everything, they can take care of the medical of everyone, they can do all of the agriculture stuff. What happens if they get sick or they're injured and they can't fulfill all of those roles? You've got to have a good team to be able to take care of stuff. And again, this isn't just for the SHTF stuff. This is also like, hey, we had a earthquake or there was a hurricane came through and the neighborhood needs to be cleaned up. You've got search and rescue, you've got first aid stuff, you've got your food and shelter requirements. You've got whatever repairs and getting your infrastructure back online. Ashley B says, team. I appreciate the IT crowd reference there. And yes, it absolutely takes teamwork. Especially for any hope of a long sustained survival or just efficiently coming out of a situation to get back ahead. And Unspecified Podcast saying, teamwork makes the dream work. Yes, exactly. So as far as the politics and governance, he has a note of who in both official and unofficial capacities has a big say in your community. And it's a very good point. You should be aware of who has influence. You've got elected officials who have influence, and then you also have unelected officials. It could be a parent that has particular concern about what's going on, and they're voicing their opinion, and they've got a large network of people that they speak to. It could be someone who's watching a situation with crime and going, hey, we need to do something about this, and they start raising awareness of it. And the more people start speaking on it, the more attention it gets. Hello, Mrs. Unspecified. What's up? Good to see ya. So, yeah, know who has influence in your community. If nothing else, those are people who you could tap if you need assistance with something. They're the ones who are most likely to know, if you need carpentry, go talk to this person. If you need eggs, go talk to Unspecified. If you need, someone to be able to watch your kids reliably while you're helping take care of the stuff, talk to Ashley B. Or whatever. Sorry to throw you guys under the bus there, but just giving some examples. Now you've got another one on civil employees that work in the local county or like city council. They're also a good source of information. This isn't your officials. This is, like your receptionist or, someone out of accounting or, just someone who's in the office, because they hear the scuttlebutt that's going on. They hear, here's some of the stuff that's coming up. Here's some of the stuff that's being discussed. Here's stuff that is becoming higher visibility. It gives you an idea of what to keep an eye on. It also gives you an idea, hey, they're talking about raising taxes on this thing, or, changing the regulations on this. So you can get a little bit of a leg up as far as getting ready for this, whatever the change is. Now he talks about considering how your elected officials, local, state, and federal, will act in an emergency or SHTF situation. Are they going to just lock everything down? Are they going to be barricading the city, welding doors shut, and yelling at people from drones? Are they going to be going around door to door confiscating firearms and the lower end areas where people are dealing with crime? Are they going to be getting all hands on deck and everybody banding together and working together to get everything resolved? Again, doing like the search and rescue teams, getting your medical stuff going, getting your shelter relief set up. Are they going to be actively organizing it, or are they going to be organizing and resolving it, or are they going to be working against everyone else and making the situation worse? And that's one of those things where, look at what their history is. You can get an idea, since everyone's got some sort of a presence nowadays. You can look at what their response was to a similar type of situation, to whatever it is you want to try to get an idea how they would act to. Next point on it is the military, security, and law enforcement. On your area study, figure out where the location of the local Army and Navy bases are. Is that something where they're close enough proximity where you could be potentially in danger if they're targeted, or is it something where they're just at the right point where, hey, you know what, these guys will be here, they'll be able to come in and help out. We've got them as a asset in the area. How does that base respond towards gun control? Technical issue. Hold on just a moment. Lost my other screen. Well, I'm not sure where that went, but anyways, yeah, how do they respond with gun control? The difference in scope. What's the difference in scope between the local law enforcement and state, federal authorities? Do they have a major power struggle going between them? Because reality is, a lot of times your state police and your local police don't necessarily get along. You can see an example of this with your highway patrol and local police, because they potentially have jurisdictional challenges. You also run into issues between county sheriffs and local police, again, jurisdictional issues, or sometimes it'll be local police versus someone like, say, the FBI. And again, it's a lot of times a jurisdictional issue. Another point that he brought up was economics. with economics for your area. Find out who your area's largest employers are. Is it going to be a manufacturing company? Is it going to be, say, Walmart? Is it going to be, agriculture? Is it, farming? Because it'll be handy to know, what you can rely on as far as production. Which the next part of that was figure out what your local production capacity is. That one's going to be a little bit harder to do. It takes a lot of analysis as far as looking into what's around and what kind of volume they have the ability to run. For example, if you're looking at farming, how many acres are there? Find out, what kind of produce they grow or what kind of animals they're raising. Find out, basically what the volume that they're putting out is. And from that, you'll be able to figure out a little bit better of, hey, this is what this area can support. If it's manufacturing, you look at the a machine shop. Are there machine shops that are around you? If there are, what kind of production can they do? Do they have multiple machines? Do they have lathes? Do they have mills? Are they just able to make simple parts? Are they able to make complex parts? If you've got other manufacturing, say someone making t-shirts or whatever, figure out what's around. Are there many tailor shops? If you've got an emergency and you need to have people make blankets, is there a decent enough system in place to be able to cover that? But that was the main points from Mike Shelby's presentation on that. And again, he is the head of Forward Observer. He is also the head of Gray Zone Activity. He has a YouTube channel, Gray Zone Activity, as well as the Forward Observer. And you can find him on grayzoneactivity.com. They have a lot of information.